This takes place in the Western Caribbean about 30 years ago and is actually my grandmother's story. My grandmother was in her late 20s and early 30s when her father remarried. She says he remarried a witch who casted a spell on her, causing her to nearly lose her life and be haunted by a spirit or demon. She and 4 other people were walking down a narrow dirt path. The path was big enough to only walk in a single file line, and she was in the back of it. 4 people walked the same exact path, all barefoot, and went unharmed. She, however, stepped on a rusty nail and ended up in the hospital, nearly losing her life. To this day, she's not sure how she was the only one to step on it. This doesn't seem too scary, right? Well, it continues. A few days back from the hospital, her mother-in-law was dropping by her home. As they drive up to the house, they saw a large fluffy pigeon sitting on the porch. Pigeons aren't common here and were rarely or never seen. Her mother-in-law told her not to touch it and that horrible things would happen, so she walked up to the porch and put a milk crate over it. When her husband got home a few hours later, he shot and killed it. The next day, a black cat started to hang around the house. This was strange because they had outdoor dogs, and the dogs highly disliked any cats. She called her mother-in-law and asked her what to do. She told her not to touch it either. Over the course of a few weeks, the cat still hung around. The strange part is the dogs wouldn't even see it. The cat started to scream and make noises during the night, and the dog still acted like it wasn't there and it didn't exist. One day, my grandfather opened the door, and the cat ran inside. My grandmother ran to the bathroom to hide, while my grandfather tried to chase it out with a machete. She slightly cracked open the bathroom door and saw it jump through the window. The window was open, but had a screen that prevented anything from going in or out. She walked to the window and saw the screen was intact, and not a single puncture or slit was there. The cat went as small as a pin to leave that window. The cat sat on the cistern at the side of the house, and my grandfather took his shotgun and killed it. They immediately went outside, and they said there was no carcass of the cat, no fur, no blood, nothing. Instead, in the spot that the cat was shot, was only ashes. She said it was charred, almost as if burnt newspaper, just sitting there. I have some interesting experiences to tell, more of a conglomerate of happenings rather than just one major experience. Here goes. So this all started in 6th grade. I had a friend whose mother was from Mexico and was very spiritually inclined in their practices. She believed in superstitions and all that stuff. She used the Ouija board and did seances often, but she seemed like she knew what she was doing, like she used it to communicate with specific entities. Basically, me and my friends would have sleepovers every week and watch scary movies all night. We were all really interested in scary stuff, even though at that point it was all fake to us. So anyway, one night we go to my friend's house. Her mom invites us to do the Ouija board and assures us it's safe because she's there and knew what she was doing and whatever. Only a couple of us did it, including me, of course. It was actually pretty scary. Nothing crazy happened, but the atmosphere suddenly got heavy, and the closest door opened slightly. After that, some of the girls playing wanted to stop, so we did. However, I was very intrigued. I think her mom gave me the board, or I bought one of my own or something. I can't really remember, to be honest. And all of a sudden, I was obsessed. I was constantly playing with the Ouija board, either by myself or with my friends. Some of my friends refused to play because they were too scared. I was playing several times a week for several months. At first, it wasn't really scary. It was just all in good fun. The planchette would barely move and just do circles or figure eights around the board. The longer I played, though, the more active it got. It started speaking, or spelling to be more accurate. It would say a word, a name, over and over. At first, I thought it was just gibberish, but after probably the 20th time of seeing the same name written on the board, I looked it up out of curiosity. Turns out, it is a well-known demon encountered with the game. I think that's important to say here. that I would play the game with many different people at different times. I say this to rule out the idea that a friend was messing with me, because it always said the same name no matter who played. After I found that tidbit of information out, things began to get sinister. The planchette would move incredibly fast, and you could literally feel some type of force holding down your arms, or swinging it. It's very hard to explain. The board started spelling out 3 6s, over and over and over all the time. It would say vile things about us burning in hell, or wanting to kill us, or kill our families, and just honestly vile curse words and details that were pretty horrifying. By this point, my friends didn't want to do it anymore, but I was still pretty hooked. However, I was scared to play alone at this point because of rules stated in movies like The Exorcism, so I couldn't do it without a friend. My friends stopped wanting to come over because of all of the scary things that would happen. When my friends came over, they would always get 3-pronged scratches on their arms, backs, legs, etc. I remember one friend was so scared, she was the one that wouldn't play, that she cried when she showed me the scratches, and never came to my house again. One night, 2 of my friends were sleeping over. I will explain the layout of my room because it's necessary to understand the events. So my bed was facing the door, but against the back L of the room. One side was against the wall, and the top of the bed was against the other wall. The foot of the bed wasn't against a wall, and was probably 6 or so feet away from the opposite wall, where the door was. On the wall where the foot of the bed faced, there was a large painting. I think it was a flower or a rose or something, but that's not important. Anyway, we're sleeping, and then we wake up in the middle of the night to that painting on top of us. This means the painting hadn't simply fallen over us. It was on the wall opposite of us and about 6 feet away. It would have had to flown or been laid on top of us. My friends were freaking out, but I kept a straight face, because at this point none of my friends wanted to come over anymore, and if I acted like everything was okay, maybe they would too. I put the picture back on the wall and slipped back into bed. As soon as we start falling asleep again, there are 3 incredibly loud bangs on my door. They were so loud that you could hear the door vibrating from the bangs. I shot out of bed and threw open my door, and of course, there was no one there. It was dark, and everyone in the house besides us was asleep. I charged into my brother's room and yelled at him to wake up, but he didn't budge, just continued to snore. He was fast asleep. I'm positive that my brother was sleeping and hadn't done it, because my brother has a really bad poker face, and he would have definitely slipped a laugh or a smile at least. He also was never the obnoxious type to mess with me or my friends, and of course my parents wouldn't have done it. Either way, I went back to my room and giggled and told my friends it was probably my brother. We fell back asleep and nothing more happened that night. The last event from this time period was in the kitchen in the middle of the day, with my mom and my brother home. My mom was in the living room, in which you can only see half of the kitchen, the half with the fridge. My brother was in his room with the door shut. I was in the dining room that was parallel to the kitchen, and was walking out of the kitchen. This event centered around a wrought iron pan, and a big one at that. The pan's circumference was over a foot wide, and probably weighed around 20 pounds or more. It was extremely heavy and large. So this pan has always been pressed in the corner of our counter, so that it was a couple inches away from the edge. The fridge is on the exact opposite side of the room compared to the pan on the counter. I'm walking out of the kitchen through the dining room when the pan is thrown into the fridge. It bounced off the fridge and into the kitchen floor, about 5 feet or so from the counter it was originally on. Let me tell you how terrifying this was. The pan was so heavy that I had a hard time picking it up. Of course, I was in 6th grade and weak, but you see my point. It didn't fall off the counter, it flew. This thing was so heavy and had such a gravitational pull that if somehow it scooted the 3 or 4 inches to the edge of the counter and fallen, it would have gone straight down. It most certainly would not have made it into the air and hit the fridge about 6 feet away. It was stunning and loud and terrible. My mom and I froze. My mom nervously laughed and said it was weird. My mom kept insisting it had just fallen and wasn't a big deal, but I think she was just trying to make me feel better because when I ask her about it now, she admits it was super creepy and didn't know what to think. This is a retelling of an experience or encounter a friend of mine had many years ago. But first, I'll give a little background. Years ago, when I was between 18 to 20, I was in a metal band with 4 friends, and this incident happened to our bass player in his home. It was also where we would gather to practice. However, in a way, it involved all of us. Again, this is his telling of the incident. Also, this was in South Texas in December. It happened sometime late at night, according to him. It started around 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. He woke up randomly and just felt compelled to look out his window. He was sleeping on the living room couch that night. When he looked, he saw a shadowy figure crossing his yard. He said it looked like it was moving quite erratically. His example was like how the doctor moved around the remake of House on Haunted Hill. Thinking he was just tired and half awake, he thought nothing of it and assumed it was just one of his neighbors because they were known to do that often, and he went back to sleep. Shortly after, he woke up with this feeling like someone was holding him down and making it hard for him to breathe. It sounds like sleep paralysis, except he claimed the whole time he could hear chanting and whispering around him, and no one was in the room with him. It eventually stopped abruptly after a minute or two. He sat up confused and terrified and got a drink of water and tried to go back to sleep. Shortly after he fell asleep, it happened again. Same feeling, same chanting, and same whispering. He always said he never knew or could understand exactly what was being chanted and whispered. Regardless, the episode ended and once again he was scared and confused. He chalked it up to maybe he just had a bad dream and managed to go back to sleep. Then it all happened once more. He woke up like something was holding him down and making it hard for him to breathe. The chanting and whispering all around him again. Though this time something new happened. He said he looked over next to him on the couch, and standing in front of the Christmas tree was a short 4-foot-tall shadowy figure that appeared to be cackling at him, though it wasn't making any other noise. This went on for what he said felt like forever. And when it stopped, he said forget sleeping and went into his bedroom and played with his guitar the rest of the night. Also, for the remainder of the night, coming from the direction of his sister's room, he would hear 2 knocks every couple of minutes. He didn't go back to sleep until the next night because of it. When the band and I gathered the next day for practice, he told us what happened, and of course we all laughed and said, "Yeah, right, you're full of it." Then he showed us in his yard that he found what looked like footprints tracked through his yard all the way up to his front door. The steps were just that, footsteps made from shoes, but no defining features to them. No imprint on the bottom of the shoe, just plain. Then when he told around what time this all started happening and that it was around 3 a.m., we all froze because we realized what we were doing that night. Our singer woke up randomly and was praying. Our lead guitarist woke up and just couldn't go back to sleep, feeling like something was wrong and off. And I, for no reason, woke up, turned on my lamp, and just started reading the Bible. We all realized that all of us at the same time he was experiencing the incident had gotten up at 3 and either prayed, read a Bible, or felt a sense of dread. Our drummer wasn't there the time he told us, and he never said if he did anything that night as well, but the story had him spooked. This story has stuck with me for many years, and I have no way of explaining it, but I figured you all would like to hear. My buddy never had an experience like this again. Me, my little brother, and my dog went to my sister's place to stay for 3 days. I was the type of teenage boy who spent most of my day playing on my laptop. One night, my little brother and sister were already asleep. I was watching YouTube on my laptop with my headphones on so they wouldn't be disturbed. Then I feel a tug on my shirt. It's my little brother. I asked him why he wasn't in bed, and he told me that a man with a big head was tapping on the window. My little brother is known to be a liar. Even my mom nicknamed him the Prince of Lies, but he sounded serious. I grabbed my LED flashlight, went into my sister's room, and shined it outside the window where he heard the tapping, but nothing was there. I told him that it could have been a branch or some animal. He agreed and went back to bed. My dog was sleeping on the soft mattress, and just before I could continue watching videos, my dog suddenly got up and started defensively growling at the backyard door. I grabbed my LED flashlight again and went outside to the backyard to investigate. However, my dog stayed inside and kept growling. Then I heard footsteps behind the fence. I shined it, and I saw what my dog was growling at. It was tall like a pine tree. It wore a black suit with a small red bow tie. Its arms and legs were out of proportion, and its long bony fingers touched the ground. The worst part about it was its head. Its bald head was oversized and had a lot of veins in it. It had small ears and a small nose. It had large eyes with black rings around it, and it also had a grin with multiple shark-like teeth and bloodshot eyes with small black pupils. I immediately ran back inside, dropping my flashlight, and locked all the doors that go outside to the house, and called the police. When they arrived, it was gone, but it left shoe prints in the ground. They said to me that it only led 14 meters away. To this day, whatever it was, still scares me.